Hello and welcome to Steins Gate 0. I am Trunks182 and we will continue our journey. Well, as I titled my first video before, is very much you have to read through and so much information, and I don't really know well how the story evolves, but I'm sure we'll find out. It was thanks to Izaki that I was able to get into the reception held after the ATF was over. They told me there was a dress code. So I went either way back to my parents' house to get a suit to change into. At first all that effort paid off, as Izaki introduced me to some of my country's top researchers. Recon, Yakuza, IMSS, etc. But before long, Izaki ran off to suck up to some university professor and I was left completely abandoned. My own personal target, Dr. Eskinen, was surrounded by a bunch of famous scientists. It didn't feel like a mere student would be welcome. So all I did was stand around and eat from the buffet by the wall. To be honest, I couldn't tell if the food was any good or not. Whenever my glass got empty, a smiling waiter was always around to fill it up again, and so I found myself drinking more than intended. My stomach was already so full it hurt. What is that? The whole place felt like it was another world. At the exact moment I spoke, I heard a girl next to me say the exact same thing. Surprised, I looked over at her. Our eyes met. What was a middle school girl doing here? And then a moment later, I realized it was Maho Yao. She was wearing the exact same outfit she had been wearing during the lecture. A lab coat. In a place like this, that's just what the old me would have done. Mao was clearly out of place. Why? Because she was still wearing her lab coat. I couldn't help but ask. She was sure she had, but she hadn't. And that's why she was standing in the corner, trying not to attract attention. I handed her one of the business cards that I'm thrown together after Izaki told me I needed them. She grabbed one of her own out of the stack and carelessly put it in my hands. That was a huge help. I looked at the card and saw that the pronunciation of a name was written in unusual large letters. Yeah, I can even read the sentence right. That was probably because of how people kept screwing it up. No damn bass. It make it pure Japanese. And then the conversation stopped. I am a terrible conversational, honestly. The old me would have gone for What? Chanep you and started ranting about conspiracies and magic powers, whether the other person cared or not. But you can't really call that a conversation. Yeah? I had no idea what to say to somebody I never met before. Yeah. I don't know how to talk to people too. I'd been working at becoming a real adult, even buying and studying men's magazines, but none of it really helped. Without anything to talk about, I looked over to Dr. Leskinen. He seemed to be giving a lecture on neurons to a bunch of scientists.
今日はすまなかったな。
何が？
いや、セミナーの途中で邪魔を。
ああ、あれね。気にすることないわ。あなたが声を上げなかったら、多分私が同じことをしていたから。許せないな、ああいう人。
いいのか、そんなこと言って。教授が言ってたじゃないか。科学者たるもの、常に冷静にって。
今のは科学者としての発言じゃないわ。だから構わないのよ。
It must have really ticked her off, because she grabbed a cocktail from a passing waiter and gulped it down. Her cheeks turned a pretty shade of pink for an instant, but no longer. She might have had a high alcohol tolerance.
だけど、やっぱり良くないわね。反省する。ああいう批判は言い方こそ悪いけれど、それでも事実には違いないんだもの。私たちの研究がまだ無謀の域から出ていないと言われれば、確かにその通りよ。
そうなのか。
取り組まなくてはいけない課題が山積みだわ。さっきセミナーで話した以上にね。例えば記憶データを元の脳に書き戻すことができても、それを脳が利用できなければ何の意味もないの。記憶があっても思い出せない状態、つまり記憶喪失の脳と同じになってしまう。
As Mao spoke, I remembered. I remembered other lectures and theories that Kuriso had given me when she was making the time leap machine.
確か人間が記憶にアクセスしようとするときは前頭葉から側頭葉へ信号が行くんだったよな。
ええ、トップダウン記憶検索信号ね。
だったら
And then I started to talk, remembering what Cariso has told me about the series as I went. When they used specialized terminology, whose meaning I barely remembered, Mao would tell me what they were.
で、最後に側頭葉に記憶を書き戻す過程で、一緒にコピーした疑似パルスを前頭葉の方に送り込めば、記憶検索信号はちゃんと働くと思う。
Ha! You didn't expect that.
あなた、それを自分で導き出したの？
ああ、いや。
Mao looked back at the business card I've given her.
脳科学専攻じゃないわね。ということは誰かに？それとも論文で？うん、それはないわ。まだ論文にはまとめられてなかったはず。
何かおかしいこと言ったか、俺。
そうじゃなくて、私の後輩がね、全く同じ理論を提唱していたことがあるのよ。どのスタッフもずっと懐疑的だったけど、彼女だけは絶対に証明できるって言い張っていたわ。結局実証試験に進む前に彼女はいなくなっちゃったんだけど。
それは
Should I tell her? Should I tell her about me and Cariso? In this word line, There's almost no connection between me and Kirisu.
どうしたの？
I made up my mind. If I wanted to follow my dreams, I needed to act.
実はこの理論クリスからレクチャーされた。
今なんて？
マキセ・クリスが教えてくれたんだよ。
クリスがあなたに？いつ？どうして？
彼女がこっちに留学してた時だ。友達になってこういう話をよくした。
Of course, it was a lie. Kirisu and I became friends in the Alpha word line, not this one. But a small lie like this was probably okay.
そうだったの。あのクリスはありがとう。感謝するわ。
Her words surprised me. That was one thing I didn't expect to her.
何が？
彼女と友達になってくれてよ。日本に来てたった一人で。たった一人で勉強していてもきっとつまらなかったと思うから。
口喧嘩ばっかりだったけどな。
あの子らしいわね。絶対に負けを認めなかったでしょう。
ああ、へりくつばっかりこねていた。ロボトミー手術してあんたの前頭葉を書き出してやるぞとかよく言われたし。
まさかそんなこと。クリスなら言いそうね。
だろ？ちゃんと後輩の教育をしておいてほしかった。
その点に関しては認めるわ。陳謝します。
Oh no. She smiled, or so I saw, and then all of a sudden she started to cry.
どうした？
I didn't have any better. Okay, I didn't have any better ideas, so I grabbed my handkerchief.
え？
She didn't seem to know why she was crying herself, and neither did I. Had I said something during the conversation that set her off?
大丈夫か？
平気よ。ごめんなさい。
She didn't take my handkerchief. Instead, she took a tissue out of her pocket and wiped her eyes.
勇敢なる大佐のアインシュタイン。
え？
I turned around and saw Dr. Leskin smiling and quickly striding towards me. He grabbed my hand as he got closer. The handshake was incredibly forceful, and his hands were as big as a bear's paws. No, not just his hands. Standing in front of me, he looked even bigger than he had during the lecture. I'm pretty tall, but he was at least a head taller than me.
教授、俺その。
Uh-oh, it was all so sudden that I couldn't even think of an introduction. And wait, did you just speak in Japanese?
しかし、私の助手を泣かせてしまったのは見過ごせないね。
いや、これは。
違います教授。私が勝手に。彼は関係ないですから。
Wait. I'm not okay. A sound, alright. That's better. Mao and I bossed the night as much as we could. But I didn't know why Mao was crying, so I couldn't come up with any excuses. I just started to panic even more.
つまりその。
クリスです。彼とクリスの話をしていたらいろいろ感情が溢れてしまって。
クリス？君はクリスの友人？
それははい。
岡部倫太郎さん、学生だそうです。
Mao introduced me. Dr. Laskin had a gentle expression on his face as he gave me a slow hug. I felt like I was going to suffocate in his massive arms. Somehow, I could tell that it was his way of remembering Kurisu.
そうですか。そういうことなら魔法。
はい。
ミスター・オカーベに合わせてあげたらどうかな、彼女を。
まさかアマデウスを。
ここで彼に出会った偶然、その幸運を大切にしたいじゃないか。日本にいる間、彼にテスターになってもらってもいいよ。
本気ですか？部外者なのにそんないきなり。
リスの友人ならば部外者ではない。そうだろう。
ですが。
What were they talking about? I had no idea, but this was my chance to build a relationship with Dr. Leskinen. I didn't want to blow it.
俺ぜひお手伝いしたいです。
ナイス。
He patted me on the shoulders and smiled. It was an innocent smile, like a child's.
じゃあ、詳細は魔法に聞いて。よろしく。
Another scientist was calling him, so he wandered away. Mao was shaking her head in disbelief.
アマデウスに合わせるとか、テスターとか、一体何の話なんだ？
コンベンションでやったデモンストレーション。アマデウスは私の記憶を使っていたんだけれど、アマデウスのデータとしてもう一人分研究者の記憶が保存してあるのよ。
From Kurisu. Another researcher's memories. What did they mean? When I finally figured out from Dr. Leskinen and Mao's conversation, my heart started pounding.
まさかあいつなのか？
そう。アマデウスの中にはマキセ・クリスの記憶が保存されているわ。8ヶ月前のクリスだけれどね。
Several days passed after the ATF party. 10 minutes from Ikebukuro via the express train, and then 10 minutes by bus from a station called Wako City in Saitama. The office I was looking for was on the second floor of a building right next to Riken. But if he met her and he only know her from the Alpha Line world, whatever, the Amadeus would knew that they don't know each other and never met before. But just my input. Global Brain Science Comprehensive Research Organization Japanese Office Prep Room. So GBSCROJOPR. Great. That was what the plate on the door said. To get in, you needed 3 types of special keys plus a security card.
各国の脳科学研究者が連携をして新しい機構を作る予定なの。私たちの研究所が主導してね。
She led me inside. The office must have been newly rented, most of the desks were still empty, showing no signs of ever having been used. There wasn't even a whiteboard, which made the room look even more empty. There wasn't a lot of natural light, maybe the windows were on the north side. The only illumination was from the overhead fluorescent lights. The room felt very cold.
ここはあくまでも準備室だから。
No one was sitting at any of the desks, but 2 of them had stuff on them. One of them was a mess, filled with notes, calculators, coffee cups, and supplement bottles. That was the one Mao sat down at. the prize. Which meant the one that was neatly organized must belong to Dr. Leskinen, right?
教授は
今日はオフ。
Well, it was Sunday.
君も
ええ、そうじゃなかったら昼過ぎまで寝ていられるわけないでしょ。
That's true. When I gone to pick her up from her hotel in Waco City, she'd come out of the room half asleep. This was the day that I was to meet Amadeus Chorizo. Now I had gone over the basics of being a tester on the way here. Essentially, Amadeus needed sample data for conversations, and they were going to give me an environment where I could talk to it at any time, 24 hours a day. She didn't give me any details beyond that, so I'll be able to talk to Amadeus Chorizo 24 hours a day, huh?
あいつはクリスのアマデウスはここにいるのか。
ええ、
Mao nodded and gave me a glance.
あいつと呼んだわよね、今。
ああ、
私が思っているよりもずっと親しかったのね、あなたたち。
Maybe my silence was an answer in itself. Mao's response was uncharacteristically hesitant.
だとしたら会うのはやめた方がいいかもしれないわよ。
どうしてだ。
相手が親しい人であればあるほどあのシステムは残酷だと思うから。
大丈夫だ。
分かった、もう言わない。その代わり一つ覚えておいて。ロードする記憶はクリスが最後に更新をした3月のデータをベースにしたものよ。だから3月以降、例えば彼女が日本に留学していた時のことを聞いても全く通じない。
That's right, isn't it?
それに3月から今日までの間に私や教授が何度も起動してしまっているから、その度にクリスは、ああ、アマデウスの方のクリスね。彼女は元のクリスとは違う記憶を蓄積しているわ。私たちが聞かせた話、ネットで検索した情報、新しく会話を交わした人たち、そういったものをね。つまりこれから会うのはあなたの友人だったマキセ・クリスではないということ。このシステムの問題点の一つなんだけれど、往々にしてこちら側、つまり人間の方が混乱してしまうのよ。まるで本当のクリスと今この瞬間にチャットでもしているような錯覚に陥るから。
She don't get reality and fantasy mixed up, I guess. Oh, so don't get reality and fantasy mixed up, I guess.
共有できていない記憶の齟齬に関してこちらの脳がついていけなくなってしまうのね。
Memories that aren't shared. Now there's a feeling I knew well. Reading Steiner. It was a power only I possessed, which made my memories different than those of the people around me.
案内してくれ。
Mao gave me a slight nod.
こっちよ。
She led me to the back of the room. There was a booth separated by a thick partition. To get inside the booth you needed a different card key than the ones used to get into the room, as well as a security code.
ずいぶん厳重なんだな。
今の時代、産業スパイが一番恐ろしいの。
She entered the security code and unlocked the door.
どうぞ。
The room was about 2.5 meters per side. At one end was a white desk and above it was a PC with a built-in 30 inches screen monitor.
少しだけ後ろに座っていて。
There was a small sofa that let you sit behind the user and see what was happening on the screen. I sat there. Mao powered on the PC and began to type. A second later the words Amadeus system appeared on screen. I saw her put the ID in. Salieri. Salieri? Salieri and Amadeus, huh? Was there some meaning to that? Come to think of it, in the famous movie Amadeus, there was a character who was spiteful and jealous of Mozart's incredible talents, but who, in the bottom of his heart, admired him more than anyone else. That character's name was Salieri.
パスワードは見ないで。
Mao moved her body to hide her hands. I looked away. She finished logging into the system and a simple bare command prompt appeared on screen.
準備はいい？
ああ、頼む。
Mao entered several commands at the prompt.
ごめんなさい。ここはちょっと見せられないの。
まあ、俺が見たところでさっぱりだけどな。
でも一応ね。
She turned off the monitor. Then she spun around to face me. I suddenly realized I was clenching my fists. How long had I been doing that? My hands were sweaty. There was a red spot at the base of my thumb where my nails had dug in. Was I more nervous than I realized?
どうしたの？
いや、今になってちょっとおじけづいてきた。
まだ間に合うわよ。今すぐここから出ていけばいいわ。
意地が悪いな。
そう？あなたのこと心配してあげてるのに。
だったらもう少しそれらしい言い方をした方がいい。クリスといい君といい実験大好きっ子は。
For a second, the old joking me was about to come back. I quickly changed the subject.
実験ばかりに明け暮れているやつは可愛げがない。
今の発言は明らかに誹謗中傷ね。侮辱罪で訴えてあげてもいいわ。
やめてくれ、恐ろしい。
いい弁護士を知っているから紹介してあげましょうか。
その前に告訴を取り下げてくれ。
示談に持ち込もうというのならそれ相応の金額は覚悟することね。
後で毒ペンをおごるかな。
安い。
I heard a small sound from the back of her throat. I guess she was laughing. Normally, I find that irritating, but strangely coming from the girl in front of me, no, she was a grown woman, actually I didn't. Mao Hiao was very strong-willed, with a prickliness and short temper unique to scientists. She was always seemed to be a little upset about something. But maybe she wasn't that bad. Oh, I see. She, Mao. He's a lot like Kurisu. When I first met Kurisu, she was like that. Arrogant, rude, never willing to change her mind, stubborn, hard-headed, and always ready to confront you with raised eyebrows whenever you said something she didn't like. I truly thought I'd never seen a more unlikable woman. But despite my first impression, on the inside she turned out to be fragile, easily hurt, and so kind and so lovable.
何がおかしいんです？先輩。
I suddenly heard a girl's voice from the speaker. I found myself jumping off the sofa. I knew this voice. I couldn't forget it. I could never. Mao turned on the monitor. The girl I'd never forgotten appeared on the screen. Maybe it was based off her appearance at the Brian science lab, because she was wearing a white lab coat. The PC's camera turned towards me on its own.
先輩そちらの方は
Ma was introducing me, but I didn't hear anything she was saying. I simply stared, entranced. I wanted to reach out my hands. I wanted to touch her. She was right there.
岡部倫太郎さんはじめまして牧瀬クリスですどうぞよろしく